Welcome to Boomer Bust NFL podcast. We are here back at the G4 podcast studio. We're ready to break down all the week 8 action. Huge weeks for AJ Brown, Alvin Kamara and Donta Foreman, to name a few. And we've got week 9 byemageddon coming up and all the impending trade deadlines on Tuesday. But we'll get to the good stuff. Tonight, I'm joined by usual co-host, Shug. How are you?
All good, mate. All good. How are you? All right?
Back here. All good, all good. And when we talk about calibre of guest, it really doesn't get much better than this. She's the first ever female NFL coach from the UK, the captain of the Great Britain American football team, and a global ambassador for NFL flag football. It's no other than Phoebe Schecter. Phoebe, how are you?
Hello, how are you guys? Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh no, it's our pleasure. Thank you for accepting to come on. We got there eventually and we're here and we're getting on with it. So I'll not hold back, Phoebe, and we'll get straight into things with plenty of questions for you, as you can imagine.
I'm excited.
I know. So probably the one that you get asked most often is, tell us a bit about how you ended up at the Buffalo Bills as a tight ends coach.
Yeah, I think I still pinch myself about the whole situation. But really it started, back in 2017. And I had attended a 5-day camp for women playing American football. And at the camp, it was hosted by USA Football, and NFL got involved, and they put on a women's careers forum. And we had incredible people there. So we had Scott Pioli, we had Kim Pegula from the Bills, we had Ron Rivera, now head coach of the Commanders, Dean Blandino from an officiating perspective, and more names like that. And it was just a panel. We got to openly ask them questions, and they were really honest with us, which was incredible. And based off the back of that, I was recommended to apply for something called the Bill Walsh Diversity Fellowship. And essentially it's like a minority internship where you can apply and hopefully get picked by a team. For me, I chose 5 teams, Bills being one of them. And I remember kind of having my last call. You have to go through a bunch of interview processes. And I remember having my last call. And Coach McDermott said, are you speaking with anyone else at the moment? And I said, I'm speaking with Scott Pioli. He was at the Falcons at the time as another option. And he just said, well, tell Scott thank you, but you're going to be a Bill now. And that for me was it. It was the craziest pinch me moment ever.
That is awesome. And I want to butt in here and ask you about, you didn't mention him, right? I'm a huge Giants fan, right? Brian Daboll, did you work with him?
Yeah, he is incredible. So he was the offensive coordinator when I was in Buffalo. And a lot of the same staff, the O-line coach, Bobby Johnson, who's awesome, his kind of right-hand man in terms of Shea Tierney and more. Angela Baker, who's one of my friends I got to play against this summer at the World Championships. She plays for Team USA. Just an incredible staff that they've built. I know you've got your Giants mug on brand all the time, so you must have been excited about them this entire season, I guess.
Well, it's turned it around with, I don't mean to sound too harsh about the Giants, we've been very limited in offence, and the job that he's done is unbelievable. And I watch it and I see the players respond to him, and he just looks so cool. When you see him in the dressing room and you see him in pressers, he is just so cool. So to me, seeing that side of things, it's no surprise that he's done so well so far. But what, like you talked there about working as a coach, and I know you're very passionate about your coaching, but in the NFL, and Craig spent a lot of time playing and coaching in America too, doing soccer. What's the day-to-day like there as an NFL tight ends coach?
It is complete madness. I'll walk you through like a normal day. So we arrive at about 5:15 in the morning. That's when I try, and if I have any opportunities to, if I'm up on my work, I'll try and get to the gym quickly, shower, food, all that good stuff. Work at your desk before meeting with the staff, the offensive staff, at 6:30. 6:30, you have your meeting, kind of prepping for the day. Then we'll go downstairs at 6:45 and try and meet with our positional group. So we'll go meet with the tight ends. 7:30, we go into a team meeting. So everybody's there, which is great. After that, you go into your offense and defensive groups, and then you break into positionals again. Then everyone comes together for special teams. If you have practice squad, you meet your practice squad guys right before going to walkthroughs. Then you've got like 30 minutes to get a snack, guys get changed, all that good stuff. Go out to actual practice, which is 2 hours. So then at that point, I'm running inside. We all get our lunch. We watch film whilst we eat. And then we go back and break it all down again. So we'll go special teams, offense and defense, positionals. That usually brings you to about 5 p.m. And then 5:30, we have a whole staff meeting. And then you start breaking down whatever that theme might be for the night. So if you're in red zone or 2-minute, or, depending on what day of the week it is it's what we break down, because we don't install everything at the same time for our players.
That is awesome, and that sounds busy.
Yeah, and what's it look like? So the off season, so do you get any? That sounds full on. I mean, as Kyran said, I got a little bit of experience coaching sort of college soccer, but and that was busy enough. But I can't imagine what that schedule was like. What is it like when the off season comes? Do you get a bit of time off, or is it straight into planning for the next season? Do you need that little couple of weeks to kind of get some downtime, or how does it work?
Yeah, so every team's different. At the end of the season, you usually try and have you'll be in the office for a couple of days and you have a week off. The biggest difference, I'd say, is in the off season you have weekends off for the most part. So even if you're thinking, okay, that space between OTAs, you're in 5 days a week, but at least you've got weekends off, which kind of alleviates the nonstop nature from training camp through till hopefully the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then when you get to OTAs, that's still, you're back into full days. You might have to do some more community-based stuff on the weekends, but at least that's all intensive, but it's still a weekday specific thing. And then you get your big break after that. You get about 5 weeks off after OTAs before training camp starts, and then you're full on back into it again.
Yeah, that sounds so good. It's when you say the community stuff as well. I've been to see a lot of Neil Reynolds live shows when he came round with Sky Sports, and he was talking about the players. Like, I had the pleasure of seeing like Josh Norman, Emmanuel Sanders when they came, and they were basically sitting saying, you do not realise like 99% of the community work that these guys do, and that's kind of a really nice side to hear from the NFL.
Yeah, and it's something that I'd say from a state's perspective, they're always passionate about. No matter what sport you play, there's always that piece of community, and especially when it comes to a football team. I know a lot of college football teams, they're always very community-based. They'll help people move in when they're moving into the universities for the first time. They're putting on whatever it may be, and that's something that's really, I'd say, ingrained in the culture, and perhaps something that in the UK we could probably do a better job of in terms of engaging with our community.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll slightly move on, but come on, give me a big name that's doing well just now that you've worked with.
That's doing well. I mean, Josh Allen, hello. That's an easy win.
What is it? I've not got him, no, unfortunately.
What?
I wish I had him, but...
Who are you guys?
Have you got him?
I got beat out of my snake draft.
Oh, no. We need to be...
I was so upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got Bill's defense, though, so we're doing okay.
That's so far. Decent.
They're pulling you up just now.
Oh, too right now.
But no, Phoebe, we'll crack on. You're the managing director of the UK Dukes, which promotes the growth of American football outside the US. What is your view to having a UK franchise? I know it's something that's been asked a million times, but we seem to get mixed responses every time we ask the question. For me, it's a big yes, but can I see it happening? I'm just not quite there yet. What's your take on that?
I think it makes sense completely from a fan perspective. Marketing, you think of the income that could bring the NFL, which, they're naturally going to be interested in. But when you really look at the logistics of it and how that all works, you're essentially asking teams to be away from their families even more than they already are. How do the families move over, but they've got kids? And then how does that work do you play a bunch of home games, 6 in a row, and then you go to the States and you play a bunch away? I think all those logistics would really need to be worked out. It would make sense for it to be the UK because of the time difference. It's only 5 hours from the East Coast. It's not really, it's an easy travel, if I'm being honest. So I think there's opportunities. And then I guess the last question would be, are you talking about creating a brand new franchise, or are you talking about moving one that's in the States and forcing that? So it's really, I know Roger Goodell's talked about it, and he's been really positive and really keen on getting a franchise going in Europe or in the UK. But I think there's a lot of moving pieces that need to be figured out before that could really be a reality.
Yeah. You say about the logistics. Have you ever seen the YouTube video it was LA Rams done, and they broke it down, the preparation that goes in to basically either playing on the East Coast or playing in the UK, because it's been a long time since I've played over here, if I remember right. And it's like they are planning this like 4 or 5 weeks in advance, filling up crates, and just there is a lot of equipment for a lot of people, and it's a full-on operation. I couldn't believe it when I seen it myself. But no, so maybe perhaps a European team as well. I understand we've got it's the next 10 days, 2 weeks, Munich. Yeah, so that is a biggie. Tom Brady coming to Munich. You got a ticket?
Unfortunately not. Yeah,
waiting.
I'm not holding my breath on that one.
I know, Phoebe, how much you enjoying the show? You willing to dish out 2 tickets?
I'm so sorry.
Come on.
If you asked ahead of time, I could do something about it. When it's 2 weeks away, I don't know.
Next season, we've got a deal in.
There you go.
We'll come watch your flag football, and you sort this out for Munich.
What a trade-off,
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking off air, and Phoebe's actually coming to Scotland to play flag football on the 10th of December at Ravenscraig, not far from where we record. So for any of our Scottish listeners, or if you want to travel from England, feel free to come along.
Exactly. We're going to do potentially a Boom or Bust podcast there. Look at us. We're planning ahead.
Yes.
You didn't know you were signed up to that, though.
I know. So yeah, we try and plan ahead as much as we can, but when it comes down to it, sometimes the logistics are hard, but we'll get there, won't we?
Absolutely.
No problem. Bigger operation than LA Rams, it will be cool. But no, that's flag football from what you're saying. Am I right? I'm right in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's our finals basically for our domestic season over in the UK. So hopefully my team should win. You know, it would be upsetting if we don't win, but we've got some good talent on our team.
Good.
Excellent. So, like we say, I was looking into this, and we're looking to get flag football incorporated into the Olympics in 2028. Is that something you're trying to push on big time as well?
Yeah, massively. And something the NFL is really keen on too. I think everyone sees the benefits of flag football and the fact that there's so many fewer barriers to participation. You know, you don't need to have all the equipment. All you need are flag belt, really. And other than that, I think it's the fact that some of the rules can be a bit confusing in the big tackle game. So you're talking about 5-a-side, it's non-contact. It's played by multiple countries around the world. So the idea is we get it into LA 2028. It's also a new thing in the past couple years where the host city is eligible to bring in a sport they feel reflects them. So it makes perfect sense. Los Angeles, flag football, they go hand in hand. And this past summer were the World Games, which was the first time to kind of showcase the sport out in Alabama. And that was really successful and great to see as well.
Yeah, from what I read, the American football in the Olympics has not been recognised since LA 1932, which is far too long ago. And I think when you say it's because the pads and everything that's needed with it, in terms of that side of things, the players need a long time to recover, at least a week, so then it doesn't really become possible. When you talk flag football, 5-on-5 to me sounds pretty exciting. I remember we had the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and we went to the rugby sevens.
Yep.
And my God, that was a good watch. We went with no real expectations, having no knowledge really of seeing rugby sevens before then, and I imagine it to be quite similar to this, where these guys were so fit, covering the full size of a pitch.
And plus it makes it more accessible to everybody, if you know what I mean, to watch as well, because rugby, I like NFL, but I cannot stand watching rugby. I just can't watch it, but rugby sevens I found really exciting.
Yeah, the atmosphere was good. And what would be good with the 2023 is that you'll have a men's team and you'll have a women's team as well. And there's maybe a side of, when I see the stuff happening from Wembley at the weekend, I've seen a lot of people take their daughters, which might not have happened years and years ago, because the girls are starting to get into it so much more. And if that's a name to go on and play something like flag football at the Olympics, then 2028 is 5 years away. That's a good time to get into it and get going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so exciting because it just gives such an opportunity for people in the UK to be able to go and play a sport for your country. And, we'll be doing a lot of scouting, looking for people from other sports. And, one of the biggest skills that we're always trying to identify in people is who can throw a football. There aren't many sports within the UK. You've got cricket. That's, you've got that bit of throwing action. But other than that, there's not many people that throw that kind of overhand, and especially for girls.
Yeah, we've actually got Martin that helps out with the podcast, and he plays flag football, but I'm going to guarantee you won't see him at the Olympics in 2028. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that either. I think his knees are made of paper, so... Now, we've covered plenty, Phoebe, but I think we'll move on and we'll start to cover fantasy football. I'm not sure if you want to be talking too much about fantasy, given what you've told us.
Well, I'm not very good at fantasy, if I'm being honest, and this is my first year ever playing, so I feel like I've done okay. I'm 5-2 in one of my teams, and then 2-5 in the other team, but it's a learning process, right? We all got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Listen, I'm amazed because you've had all these achievements in the game. Kyran has been an expert, done so much studying, but this idiot here's the only one with fantasy championship ring at the moment, so... I'll take it.
You got everyone compete.
I'll take it, exactly.
for all the time I've known you, I don't think I've ever heard you mention anything more times than that.
Well,
that is bragging rights. But no, this weekend, when you talk about form, you talk about having a bad weekend. I have had a bad weekend. Down to myself and my own choices, I benched Tyler Conklin, right? And he scored, what was it? I've got it here. He scored 25.9 fantasy points and I dropped him, right? But he's my boom this week. He is my fantasy boom this week. 6 of 10 targets for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can't ask for much more in a tight end. Phoebe, you know tight ends. That is some good numbers.
Those are some definitely good numbers. And I mean, and he's coming up big, with kind of the removal of not having Breece Hall around. I mean, what a great opportunity for him to step up. And tight ends always become that kind of anchor, that safety blanket for your quarterbacks. And he was able to do that last weekend, which is exactly what you want to see. Get those big catches. I mean, so far in the season, 309 yards. That's great.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and that's what you're looking for. But Shug, how's your fantasy weekend went?
I had a bad one, to be honest. I lost as well.
That's a tough pill to swallow. So who was your boom for this week? Who done all right for you?
All right for me? Well, I went with the boom out of their game, which was Tony Pollard. Out of our game, he was one of the reasons I lost. Tony Pollard put up 33.7 points. Really, when I seen that, I knew I was in a wee bit of trouble. So a big weekend for him. Yeah,
in terms of Pollard, the writing was on the wall with Zeke being out.
Yep.
It was going to be huge for him. And I'm going to say this, and I said it at the start of the season. I don't know if I'm being controversial here with saying it. I 100% believe that Tony Pollard is a better player than Ezekiel Elliot. I think when I watch him, just passes the eye test for me. I really like the guy.
I'd agree with that, and the Cowboys as a whole are starting to get a wee bit of momentum, aren't they?
They are. But Zeke being missing, I think it's an MCL sprain. Yeah. We'll see how long he's out for. I think they are a better team with the 1-2 punch at running back, but now we'll move on. How did it go for you, Phoebe? I know it's been a bit up and down, but who really turned it on for you this weekend? Who was your guy?
I mean, I don't think anyone can deny the fact that Derrick Henry was killing it last weekend. Yep. He was unbelievable. I mean, he ended up with 35.8 points. I mean, that is next level. But 219 yards. The fact that he averages 6.8 yards, he is also a freak of nature. It's 6'8" in terms of his height. Like, once he gets going, he is unstoppable.
Yes, it's the beauty of the NFL is seeing a guy of that size and that weight moving at that speed. His agility is insane. There was one I think he had cut and he had basically like sent 4 guys in other directions, and it looked like he was going to bust it into the field and get brought down near the end zone. But he is just unbelievable to watch, and he just goes about his business. There's nothing fancy, there's nothing in your face about him, but he is just a freak of nature. He's been outstanding, but unfortunately with booms there's busts in the old fantasy game. For me, he didn't actually play on my team. There was too many to choose from there this weekend. But I've went with a surprising one actually, Davante Adams. It is a poor weekend for him. 1 reception from 5 targets, 3 yards. He also had a rushing attempt for -1 yards, and he scored a total of 1.2 points.
Yep. Again, that's a guy we spoke about at the start of the season. It was going to be crucial. We spoke up that the Raiders could do something, could be decent, and it's just been horrendous for them for the most part of the season, hasn't it?
The only thing going for them at the moment is that stadium.
I think some of the players are doing what I done in Vegas, to be fair.
There is that real curse of 8. Well, Davante Adams he's still got charges against him, hasn't he?
Aye.
Have you got charges against you from Vegas?
Absolutely not. No guilty.
So who let you down this week? I know you scored all right, but who let you down?
So me, it was Tre'Quan Smith. I added him in at last minute. I had a lot of issues with my wide receivers. So basically Lazard out injured, Williams out injured. I had to try and draft in what I could, and it was slim pickings, to be honest with you. I added him in and he gave me 0 points. So all my big hitters produced, but I had a couple of these in that just gave me zeros, gave me nothing. The other one was Devante Parker out there that had 0 points as well. So when you've got 2 zeros at your team, you're really struggling, aren't you?
Yeah, at least they got 1 target. That's a bonus. But Phoebe, who's let you down this week? Who's been a bit of a bust?
Yeah, for me, and I knew kind of going into it, just having Brian Robinson back and Antonio Gibson, but I was really hoping for J.D. McKissic to be able to do something. I mean, I was looking, he's 3 of 8 on busted. I mean, 5 points finishing the weekend, 2 receptions. That's not a place that we need to be. I needed him to really carry my team because my matchup absolutely demolished me.
Yeah, that's not much fun, is it?
No.
But I think JD McKissic is a wee bit of a risk, but I can see what you're going for there. Pass catching, running back, all the talent's there. I do think they should use him a bit more. But you go tell coach, come on. Get him in there.
Literally.
I know, but I don't think my speeches would quite square up to a sort of NFL level of motivational speeches.
Do you think it would be the Scottish accent? That's what would really hold back your message. They wouldn't know what you're saying.
Yeah, I could go full on Braveheart and just say, you can take her Robinson, but you'll never take her McKissic.
They'd love it.
I know, but for me, I'm going to give an honourable mention to another running back, right? This weekend, as a passer, he outscored Derek Carr. As a rusher, he outscored Jonathan Taylor. As a receiver, he outscored Justin Jefferson. Christian McCaffrey gets my honourable mention this week, and this is a Christian McCaffrey of old. This is the one we are used to seeing. This is the one who's a fantasy rock star. And a few stats here I also stole from Michael Florio on Twitter, as I usually do. He played 81% of snaps, 18 carries for 94 yards, a touchdown, 9 targets, 8 catches, 55 yards, a touchdown, 34 passing yards, and a touchdown for a total of 40.3 fantasy points. That is insane stats.
Yep. So CMC is actually in my team. I would have had him as my boom, but I decided to get my boom and bust in before I fell asleep last night, the early night. So when I tried to change it, he'd already stole my guy. But he's the reason I'm not too negative about my team, because I've got him in there and he's just producing the goods. Just really excited about seeing what he can do week in, week out. But over 40 points is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, unbelievable. And he becomes the first to score a passing, rushing and receiving touchdown since Jadeveon Tomlinson in 2005. The guy is unbelievable.
The stats are crazy. And Will Gavin would be very impressed that you've chosen him. He is a 49ers diehard. I'm a little offended that he made the show before me. I'll have to fight him. But
well, Phoebe, we'll see who makes it into the studio first, all right?
He's not leaving the Talk Sports studio in London. I will compete and I'll come beat him up there.
I love it. But no, Shug, I stole your honourable mention.
Yep. So
who's your second choice?
I went with a man who anybody that listens in any other kind of group of friends know is my favourite guy in the NFL, the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Now I get criticised for picking him up in my first round, but I just love the guy. I've got loyalty to him, and he's repaying me every week. He seems to produce the goods just now. Tyreek Hill, straight in there.
I love it. He is, with Tua behind him, like the Dolphins are, I've said it so many times, the Dolphins are a complete different team, and we're now talking about Tua in that top 10 quarterback echelon. He has been fantastic since he's came back, and he just brings guys like Waddle, Gesicki, Hill all to life in that offense. And am I right in saying you took him as your starter on Thursday?
No, I didn't have him in there.
I think it was me. I couldn't pronounce his name, so that was me. But no, Phoebe, your honourable mention. Who did you feel outside the year two that deserved a wee mention? Boom or bust?
I thought he was brilliant this weekend, and especially kind of doing commentary for the game at Wembley. Travis Etienne from the Jags. I mean, he pretty much held that team together. His explosive ways, the way he's able to run between the tackles, with everything that happened with James Robinson, he was bound to have a great week, getting way more carries, and he pretty much did keep that team together. So, I mean, he ended up with 25.2 fantasy points. He had 156 yards, and again, averaging 6.5 yards against a Broncos defense who are known for shutting down the run. He was brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, and it's great to watch, and a bit like McKissick, we were talking about that pass catching running back who adds so much more to fantasy football. And it took Etienne a wee while to get going. Nobody really expected Robinson to have such a big start to the season, but now that Etienne's gone, he is that offense. And when you watch Trevor Lawrence, I don't know if the atmosphere kind of told it live when you were there, because I know we've got a big Jags following here over in the UK, that it really didn't happen for Lawrence yesterday, did it?
No, there was just some tricky things, right? And essentially it came down to interceptions. It was 2-1 in terms of 2 for Lawrence's behalf, but it was just some of the connections he was making. He was really looking for those out routes quite a lot, especially to Christian Kirk. He had a couple great plays, like intermediate to Zay Jones, but it was just ball placement. The accuracy wasn't quite there, and that's really what allowed for those interceptions. They made the Broncos defense look even better than they were. They had some great streaks, and the fact they came in and they scored first, they were really rolling and enjoying themselves. It was great to see, but they came out flat from a defensive perspective in the second half, and that was really the beginning of their struggles.
Yeah, it was kind of like the interception which happened. Was it that? I think it was actually a third down in the end zone. It was a great interception from the Broncos. Yeah. That kind of just put him off his rhythm, and from there he just didn't really recover.
No, and he didn't need to make that throw. He was rolling out to his right, and I'm trying to remember, I'm blanking on which defender it was, but he was literally just sat there being really patient, almost spying on Trevor Lawrence, and he didn't need to force it. He had other options. I think they were on second down, so it wasn't even, they had another opportunity to get out there, and so I think you're right. I think he really struggled to overcome that.
Yeah, but they couldn't beat the Giants last week either, so I'm loving that. But now, away from that, we look on, and it is Halloween today as we're recording, and there's a couple of fantasy players are back from the dead. Would you believe it?
Yeah.
Yes, the first one I'm going to come to, tight ends coach Kyle Pitts. He is back from the dead in fantasy football. Phoebe, what's your take on Kyle Pitts this season? It's been very much hot and cold.
Yeah, it's precisely that. I remember when he was over last year playing in London, and I thought, oh my gosh, this guy is going to go off, talking about for this season. I thought he was brilliant. I think his size, the way they're able to move him around, his catch radius, and he just creates a really great matchup. And then this season, he's just been a non-effect essentially. They've not used him very much, which is crazy. I mean, it's great to see him yesterday coming back into the game, especially in such a tight game. I mean, that was crazy, really. But why have they not used him earlier? And then you have to start thinking, okay, they know who they have in him. Perhaps there's some other issues going on behind the scenes, being why they're not utilizing him.
Yeah, I think in terms of Pitt, when you look at him and you say like his catch radius and stuff, you've essentially got a tight end there that plays like a wide receiver, and it's, in fantasy terms, he's not consistent enough. When I look at the stats, he scored 19 points this week. Last week 3.9. The week before 10.9. You're always looking in that sort of region of the 10 points for your tight ends, but he's not a plug and play. You can't just put him in there and right, okay, he's going to give him a 10 points each week. And is it the type of guy you'd be looking to trade for at the moment, Shug, given the bye weeks?
The pit stop.
Believe it or not, I was working there today.
Nah, I think it's a hard one, because if you've got them in your team, tight ends, especially in fantasy this season, seems as if they've been really hard to come by in our league and really have struggled for that sort of consistency. So you would be tempted to hold on to him, but it's one of those ones that's it's hard to predict. As you said, week in, week out it changes. So I'd probably be holding on to him, to be honest with you, and hoping that he kind of kicks on from here. But it's toss a coin kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, the Falcons have been great to watch. Who would have thought that Marcus Mariota would carry that offense the way that he has, and they're exciting to watch. I've really enjoyed it. And Drake London for me has been slightly disappointing, but the same as you say there, so I'd be looking to hold on to that guy. Maybe one more week, but another guy back from the dead, DJ Moore. I think PJ Walker's lit a fire under him, and he's come to life the past 2 weeks. 2 huge games back to back, scoring 27.5 points from 11 targets this week. Phoebe, have you got him in your fantasy team, or would you be looking to get him?
I don't have him, but I would be looking to get him. Just looking at, again, the removal of CMC, Rob Anderson not being there, this just opens up the window, and having PJ Walker, I mean, he's been terrific. You have to give the man credit. He's done a great job, and I could tell last night even watching the game, DJ Moore was so annoyed with himself after really kind of losing the game, getting that touchdown, which was great, but that over celebration, which then caused everything else to go down the line, was very frustrating. But I think he has a lot of potential. I mean, he comes up in big moments, so yeah, I think he's got week 8 and he had 152 yards. I think that's pretty decent for him.
Yeah, going away slightly from fantasy and touching on something you said there, see when something like that happens during the game and there's maybe a taunting call, which we don't like to see as fans, what is the mood like in the dressing room when something like that has happened?
I think the bigger issue would be, I mean, at the end of the day, the conversation is going to be, we beat ourselves, right? There was nothing technically that the Falcons did in that situation that made them lose the game, right? It was the fact that there was a taunting call and then the yardage changing, and all of that plays such a big role. But I think the biggest thing has to be play your game between the whistle, right? Everyone's seen your score, let your game talk for itself. Great, I know you're excited about it, but you're hurting your team when you put yourself first like that.
Yeah, 100%. And it is a team game, and at the end of the day, when you've got a match winner in DJ Moore and he does something like that and then it goes against him, you forget all the good that he's done, which is unfortunate for him, but I'm sure he'll learn from it. He's experienced enough. But Shug, are you trying to get DJ Moore? I know that he's in the hands of a guy that beat me this week very well, Toasty.
Listen, I don't see myself trading with that guy, to be honest with you, because he's very difficult to deal with. But I totally agree. DJ Moore, I would now have him in my team. He is producing. I find the celebration stuff, it's absolutely crazy. Kind of reminds me of football and our sort of football, when someone's on a yellow card and they jump into the crowd or something and get sent off. It's sometimes you try and give them a wee break because it is the emotions in the game. But yeah, and you've got to wonder, I don't know what you think, but should the other players round about you be grabbing them in that situation, kind of stopping that happening? Or would you
they were trying. They were trying at the end.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones, but in terms of things like that, like you look at AJ Brown's celebration yesterday when he was in double coverage and he's just sort of pointed at the two guys and walked away. That's entertainment. That is what we want to see. If you're taking that personally, then I don't think you should be playing the game. Like for me, the taunting stuff is just let it go, man. Let's have a bit of fun. That's what I say.
Exactly.
But no, Phoebe, we won't keep you too much longer. It's been a pleasure having you, but are you alright if we finish with a game here?
Okay, we'll do it. I can't promise I'll be very good, but I'm down for it.
I can't promise that Shug will stick to the rules either, but we're going to let him call the plays on this one.
Listen, this could end up going anyway, but we'll give it a try anyway. So this game, we're going to call it a Tom Brady looking shady game. So I kind of described it before. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give a clue, and the answer is going to rhyme. So it's going to be a player or a team, and it's going to rhyme. So for example, if I said to you, the Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback has been seen lurking around dark alleys, what would the answer be, Kieran?
Tom Brady looking shady.
We got it?
Got it.
Right.
What a look for that title.
So number 1, Cleveland Browns star running back is celebrating in a boozy nighttime establishment.
Chub on the... Oh, what's the word for drinking?
At the pub.
At the pub, thank you. That was terrible.
Yeah. We'll give you...
Chub at the pub.
It was in a club, but we'll give pub.
Yeah, we'll give
Club.
Next one. Next one. So 1 point to... We're giving Kieran that. Just
Half
got
a
it in
point.
time, but I think we've got to take into account the delay.
Well, there's only 5, so the thing is, we might end in a draw if we give half a point each.
Bring out the
I'm
change.
anticipating losing.
And Phoebe gets the point 'cause she's the guest.
Right, Phoebe gets the point. Well done.
Sympathy point. Nice.
Number 2. Injured Jets running back is consuming medication for his sore head.
Brees Hall with a fall.
No, close though.
Brees Hall with paracetamol.
Yeah. Point for Kieran.
That was so.
It sounds so much better when you say it.
There's plenty of
It
us
like
there
actually
to-
rhymes.
This one's an interesting one. Wee bit different. The 21-22 Super Bowl winners are manufacturing homes for beavers.
The Rams are building a dam.
Quick from Kieran.
Where do you guys come up with these?
Kieran's now 2-1 up. So the next one. 25-year-old Eagles running back is shouting sideline instructions to the Washington NFL team.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Kieran, you go for it.
Miles Sanders to the Washington Commanders. No, shouting sidelines.
What?
Yeah.
Miles Sanders.
Is that what it'd be?
What would they be doing? What would they be doing to them?
Sanders demanding,
No.
oh,
What did you do at the Bills?
command. What did I do? What do you mean?
Miles Sanders
like-
coaching the tight ends at the Washington Commanders.
Oh, so you're coaching the Commanders.
Yes. Yeah. I tried to help them.
Right,
I know.
the winner gets a pair of tickets to NFL Munich.
Oh, nice.
winner-
I'm working. I don't even get tickets.
The winners get tickets to Ravenscraig.
Yes. Front row seats, guys.
So the last one is Kansas Chiefs quarterback is purchasing tiny human creatures for his
Mahomes
garden.
throwing gnomes.
Yeah. You get the point there.
Terrible.
I had no idea where that was going there.
Well, that was enjoyable. Wee bit of fun there. I think Kieran just edged it, but great effort there, Phoebe.
Yeah. It was terrible. It's okay.
We enjoyed that.
I know my strengths.
Next week's one's Kieran was asking Phoebe for a freebie.
Yeah, literally.
But no, Phoebe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight, and thank you so much for giving us your time. And yeah, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the studio hopefully.
We need a round of applause.
A round of applause. We do this for guests now.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, so Phoebe, in terms of your socials, where can we find you?
So it's just at Phoebe_Schecter. Otherwise, if you wanted to learn how to get involved with the sport, UK Jukes on all things Twitter, socials, whatever that looks like for you. But yeah, if anyone needs anything, I'm here. Reach out, especially when it comes to growing the game.
Awesome, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and we'll not keep you too much longer.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
A huge thanks as ever to our sponsors at G4 Claims, not at faultclaim.com. Make sure you look them up. But other than that, we love it when you subscribe to the podcast. We love it when you follow us. But most of all this week, please share the podcast. We know you're in WhatsApp chats with all your other fantasy league folk. How would we call them? Your competitors, your opponents. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we just ask, please go and share the podcast, whether it's on social media or it is in your chats, etc. Tell your friends. Let's build an audience and let's build a good group of fantasy football fans. Otherwise, go and find us on Twitter at BoomerBusPod. That's the best place to get us, and probably the best place to come and talk rubbish with us. If you've got any fantasy questions, whether it's trade advice, I don't know if it's the best place to come for advice, but we will try our best. Any lineup dilemmas, we're your guys. But as fantasy football goes, injuries are a bit of a bummer, Shug. One guy this week that was out, that basically with one negative there comes a positive. Ezekiel Elliot being out with an MCL sprain. How did that one go, do you feel?
I mean, it's a big miss for them. It means they'll rely heavily on Pollard, but I mean, it now Pollard becomes a huge, we spoke about it a wee bit earlier, Pollard now becomes an absolute key player in their fantasy teams, doesn't he? Yeah,
he's going to win guys games over the next, an MCL sprain, it's not like a straightforward injury. I think it's something you're talking between 3 to 4 weeks.
Yep.
In terms of a running back as well, that's quite a hindrance. But for me, Tony Pollard is, if you've got him, hold on to him, lock him down, put him in your team every single week, because he is going to score huge points, as he did this week. But a guy that's still injured, it's been 5 straight games, and maybe it's time to push him on. He's not on IR yet, but Michael Thomas.
Yep.
Is it time to drop him at the Saints?
Move him on. I think Chris Olave, we spoke about him a lot. He's one of the ones I would sort of start to trust more. Get Michael Thomas out there. Yeah, in terms of Chris Olave as well, I know we spoke earlier in the pod about you were stung by Traquan Smith. Jarvis Landry is going to be hanging about a lot of waiver wires. Is he something you'd be looking at again? I recently punted him as well. So, nah. There's your answer. I'm not swallowing my pride and going back to him. He's in the scrap heap for me, so no. Jim Tan Landry, no more. Nah. Another interesting one, right? And this is a guy who is one of my favourite fantasy football players who's now went down with a hamstring injury. Yep. Deebo Samuel. Yeah. It's quite a funny one because a lot has changed, as in this week Brandon Ayuk had a huge game. CMC, we've already spoke about it. Wow, like there's not much more that we can say about him. In terms of Deebo Samuel, is it maybe the time to try and push the button and sell high at the moment? I don't know if we could say that. There's still a ceiling there, but I think it's getting slightly lowered given the offense is improving. Yeah, I would say so. I'd say probably like to move him on. As you said, it's the CMC show it turned into. He's literally, they want him to do everything. He literally threw the ball at the weekend. Yeah. CMC is going to be their obviously main man. Deebo Samuel obviously struggling with injury. Probably the time to move him on. Yeah, and this one's quite a funny one that we've got here as well. They're due to play tonight, the Bengals. Jamar Chase, when we were live on YouTube on Thursday night, we got a question coming through saying, now that Chase is out, who would you start between, or who would you trade for between Higgins and Boyd? We didn't actually know at the time that Chase had been declared out for 4 to 6 weeks, but how big a blow is that for fantasy owners of Jamar Chase? That's a huge blow, and again, with fantasy, it always turns that it's a plus for somebody else. So again, you mentioned the two of them, Higgins and Boyd. If you got them on your team, then you're laughing.
Yep, I've also got Joe Mixon, so hopefully it plays into the hands of Mixon.
Aye.
Might think Samaje Perine comes into a few things. He's an excellent running back that seems to play second fiddle for obvious reasons at the Bengals. But even he might come into the fray. There's plenty of options there. They're a solid team in offense, but he will be a miss deep down the field. But no, we'll not linger on the injuries too long. We'll start to look at the fixtures of this weekend, especially what I've got here. The Minnesota Vikings defeated the Cardinals 34-26.
Yep.
Did you catch much of this one?
I saw quite a bit of the sort of second half of it. Big win for the Vikings. It was kind of frustrating me because I had Kirk Cousins my quarterback, but I was playing against Roberto, who had Justin Jefferson, and it felt like the bit I was watching, he just kept throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson, and then I was at first happy that Cousins was getting a bit of joy, and then realising who was on the end of it and realising that was going to cost me a bit. So, but yeah, big win for the Vikings.
Mate, I feel your pain there, and we will get to it. I was up against Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Me having Devonta Smith. This is one of these fantasy sort of grey areas. Would you drop someone like Devonta Smith in a situation like that where you're up against a quarterback who's going to be scoring the points from throwing it to him?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I just looked at it and saw Kirk Cousins was my best quarterback that I had available, and he did come up with good points for me. I can't remember exactly how many. It was over 20, I'm sure. 2 seconds, I'll just check on that, but I had 23, just over 23 points, so he was obviously worth putting in, although it hindered me on the other side, the guy I was up against, but he was worth having in there.
Yeah, Devonta Smith on my side didn't get much in terms of that matchup, but on the other side of the field there, the Cardinals, man, DeAndre Hopkins is just frightening. He is so good. It looks like that time off's done him well, and he catches balls that you don't see other guys catching. There was one at the weekend where he's just sort of plucked it from behind the head, and I think it was a yard from the end zone, and it's one of these deep balls and one of these catches that you don't really see many other wide receivers making, and he's been outstanding. But once again, 34-26 against an Arizona Cardinals team with Kyler Murray at quarterback. The weekend that Call of Duty comes out, so no surprise there that they've been beaten. But we'll move on. The Cowboys defeating the Bears. No surprises here, but a huge scoreline. 49-29. It was a CD Lamb show almost, and Dak's just outstanding. I say the CD Lamb show, it was a Tony Pollard show.
Yeah, it was a Tony Pollard show. As you said, Dak's just came back in recently, and it's really spurred the Cowboys on.
Wow. How long's that been sitting there?
That's not bad for you, you're learning.
Well, we just end the podcast here. But no, in terms of fantasy, we spoke about the Chicago Bears. One guy I want to highlight out of that team is Justin Fields. To me, he's getting better game by game. Maybe the results aren't going the way of the Chicago Bears, but Fields to me looks like a guy that could really score some points in fantasy football for folk, and he might be out there in a lot of waivers.
Yeah, he's still putting up decent points, but overall I think the Bears are just ready for hibernation.
Anyway, we'll move on. Next one up. There's a bit of bite to your punch tonight. Your Dolphins defeated the Lions.
Big win for the Dolphins against. You've got a soft spot for the Lions, haven't you?
I say this every week, but it's not as soft anymore because they keep getting beat.
They're murder, aren't they?
They're not great. They're great for the neutral.
A good TV programme, but the Dolphins, Lions blew I think it was a 14-point lead.
I think that's correct, yeah.
Just again, Dolphins just showing their ability to come back. Tua, I think, it's just producing this season. I think he's been spoke about so much. He obviously then had the injury problems, but he's just producing. Tyreek Hill, as we spoke about earlier as well, puts up big numbers, seems every week. But the Dolphins, really excited about it. As I said, I wasn't holding on. I wasn't getting my hopes up too much about their season because I think there was a lot of unknowns in there. But as it got closer to the season, we were getting quite excited. And now, listen, although they've had a few defeats in there, I think the Dolphins, if they can keep everybody healthy, if they can keep swimming away the way they're doing.
That was not smooth at all, so I'm not accepting that at all. I've got to agree with you though. 31-27 is a very good result. I thought they played well to come back into the game. Tua, like you say, is great to watch with the guys in front of him. They're playing very good football, and even the run game. Raheem Mostert has been a very much in the bracket of surprise package this year. Nobody was speaking about him before the season started.
Can you see World Championships for them? Right,
you've been warned. That is enough. It's going to be someone laughing at that.
Kelly's mic if you want.
Kelly's mic. Producer Dave's on the same wavelength as me. Or David, sorry, your church name, your Sunday name. But no, for me, I say Mostert's done well, but I think it's time to bin Chase Edmonds. He's just... For me, there was so much promise at the start. It looked like he was going to get that role to himself, and it's not really happened. So for me, I'd be looking to drop Chase Edmonds and try and pick up another running back. But
potentially.
We'll run through the rest of the games. Thursday night game, the Baltimore Ravens defeated Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's not a good week for Tom Brady, is it? We will get onto that, but in terms of the Baltimore Ravens, I scored over 20 points for Lamar Jackson. He had been up and down the past few weeks. I was happy with this one. It didn't see me over the line, but when your opponent's scoring close to 180 points against me, I'd rather have my players having down weeks on a week that I'm not beat by 1 or 2 points. But yeah, I didn't see much of this game, being honest. It's a late game over here. Did you catch even the highlights yourself?
I saw the highlights, It just seems if Ravens, from what kind of looking at the reviews and stuff, they made a lot of half-time adjustments, ran the ball more, and worked too well for them. Brady, though, really struggling, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not vintage Brady. I think he scored 17 points in this game, but one notable in this is probably a guy that's on just about every waiver going, unless someone's got a hell of a lot of stash in their team. Julio Jones got a touchdown.
Aye.
We should have put him in the back from the dead segment, but that's one notable there that I can think of off the top of my head, but we'll not dwell on it too long. It wasn't exactly a classic, but spoke about it earlier, the London game, Jags defeating the Broncos. Not the most exciting game, but Travis Etienne absolutely burned me in this game, and Toasty as well.
Broncos defeat the Jags.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's getting too late. It's Halloween. I'm going to throw up a few surprises. The Broncos defeating the Jags 21-17. I really wasn't impressed with the Jags, apart from Travis Etienne that we spoke about earlier. On the Broncos side, the tight end, I cannot remember, I think it's Dorich, his name is. He was up against me and burned me as well. So by the time we even got to what was the 5 o'clock games this week, I was on the back foot. What were you? Do you like this one?
It wasn't the greatest of games. I think Broncos, they've been really, really struggling, and they've done well just to stay in the game. And then Wilson produced. I would say they rallied pretty well second half. It wasn't anything you write home about. I don't think it's going to change their season massively. I don't think it's a turning point, but it's a win.
A win's a win at the end of the day, and that's what it shows in the stats. We move on. The Falcons defeating the Panthers. The Falcons to me are sneaky good. 37-34 against a struggling Panthers team. Panthers putting up a lot of points, but these are the type of games we enjoy in fantasy football.
Yeah, just again, we spoke about it earlier about DJ Moore's touchdown celebration. That's what killed them. Ended up they getting penalised, and they ended up, that cost them the game is absolutely crazy. That's a heartbreaker for them. But Falcons, so a good game. Enjoyed watching that one.
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, so we'll not dwell on it too much. The Saints defeating the Raiders 24-0, a complete and utter shutout. And this one, Alvin Kamara, the golden goose.
I do like the guy. I was talking earlier with Drew, our trade where I got CMC and he got Kamara. It's actually the overall trade has worked out well for both parties, which is sometimes nice to see in this game. But Kamara's came alive. But this is one of those ones that I think we struggle with because both of these teams have really struggled for any sort of form this season. So Raiders, that's horrendous, isn't it? Is it that the Saints were that good, or is it that the Raiders aren't? I just don't know what's going on there. You do expect them to beat the lesser teams because of the options that they've got in their offense, but the Saints have done well, and Kamara is really stepping up to the levels that we know he can.
like you said, Drew's got him in his fantasy team. Very, very solid player, and for me, I love to watch the guy. He's all action.
Yeah.
And he got one of the grills he's got. I should have got that for tonight. I like that. The old diamond encrusted.
Yep.
The Pats defeating the Jets, not the most glamorous, 22-17. The Jets, a lot of noise around them considering their trades this week, bringing in James Robinson. Everyone expected them to, I've got to say, be flying there. Oh, count me out. But it didn't really work out that way. The Pats, pure Bill Belichick there. Jacoby Myers for me had a great game. He's been an unbelievable pickup of waivers for me. Do you know who dropped him?
Me, probably. Aye, that sums it up, doesn't it?
A gift from the gods.
Aye.
But not the most exciting game, so we'll move on from that. Quite surprising, actually. Another one that wasn't very surprising, the Eagles defeating the Steelers 35-13, and there's no other way to start this than mention the name AJ Brown. Wow, 3 touchdowns. He was just unbelievable.
And total mismatch here. You've got the Eagles that are high flying, beating the Steelers convincingly. Steelers have not been impressed with it. This game was only going to go one way. It was never going to catch much of your attention, was it? Aside from his outstanding performances, it was never a game you're looking at and going, oh, this will be a classic. Yeah,
just for me, Devonta Smith completely let me down in this. All the points go to AJ Brown. My opponent's got the quarterback's a heartbreaker, but the Eagles look a solid outfit. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought another couple of bodies in before the trade deadline. They've really got to feel like they're Super Bowl contenders this year, which pains me to say that because I'm not a big fan of the Eagles. This next one hurts a bit too. The Seahawks ending the 4-game win streak from the New York Giants 27-13. It just wasn't our week. We didn't play well at all. Daniel Jones wasn't vintage Daniel Jones. We're really struggling at wide receiver. Like I said about the Eagles, I think the Giants will bring in before Tuesday's deadline. We'll get onto that. But in terms of the Seahawks, Kenny Walker again, if you've got him in your team, you are laughing just now. He looks like he's going to be that guy that wins leagues, and we've said it week after week. Did you happen to see him on social media last week when he posted the picture of him celebrating? No. And it just had the women in the background, the front row like that. I love that. I absolutely love that. But
Seahawks have got to start giving a big bit of respect to, because at the start of the season we all kind of wrote them off. We've spoken about as it's went on, saying they could be a decent team. I think they're up there, and probably not that elite level of team. Wouldn't put them up with the Bills or anything yet, but they've got to be respected because they're churning out big wins. Lockett done well again, but he's clearly he's been sorted out with injuries. And then Metcalf, he looked completely out of it, and then he plays really well. It's a strange one, but you've got to think they've got these big players that are hanging on with injuries. Could that bubble burst at some point?
Yeah, I've not even looked. I don't know when their bye week is. It's got to be soon. I'm sure they've not had it yet, but that probably couldn't come quick enough the way things are going at the moment. But we've spoke about them. CMC, the CMC show. 49ers defeating the Rams, and it's actually quite a good game to watch. Like two teams going up against each other, West Coast. CMC was unbelievable. Brandon Ayuk, though, he has been consistently good in fantasy football. Another good one to go and try and trade for. The run of games is nice as well. I like him in there. A lot of bye weeks coming up, but Jimmy Garoppolo as well. Steady game.
I think CMC's obviously spoke about it. It was a CMC show. I was excited last week. I said how with him getting a full week under his belt, training with him was exciting. They were going to go to him a lot, and it turned out to be that way, and he produced, doesn't he? We kept saying if he stays healthy, he's the best in the league. You can't argue he's producing just now.
Yeah, and one of the news that came late in this game that Cooper Kupp getting rolled up. Talk about one fantasy superstar and Christian McCaffrey to another. Cooper Kupp looks to have sustained an ankle injury. Now, in Kupp's words, he says he's dodged a bullet, but is that a bit of a smoke screen?
I don't know.
He looked in a lot of pain towards the end of the game.
So if he's struggling, but time will tell.
Yeah, fantasy managers of Cooper Cup will be refreshing their feed constantly all week. Make sure he's all right. But no, Titans defeating the Texans, not exactly one we'll go back and watch again. 17-10. Phoebe touched on it earlier in the show. Derrick Henry, that guy's a fantasy god.
Yeah, big performance from him. That's all really I got to say about that one, to be honest. Not a great game, as you said, but Derrick Henry putting up big points.
Yeah, and a small honourable mention to Malik Willis in this game. Put up a decent performance. Might not put up great fantasy numbers, but he's one to watch there. I think Tannehill's carrying an injury. They've threw him in there and they've got the win on his starting debut, and he's done well. But the Commanders, the Colts, 17-16 to the Commanders. Once again, this isn't one we're going to sit down and watch the full game over. In terms of the Washington Commanders, I actually dropped Brian Robinson for this game. I'm not seeing too much value in him yet, because it seems that Antonio Gibson is the RB1 for me there. The Colts, on the other side, if I pronounce his name right, I can't say it properly, is it Sam Ehringer?
That'll do.
I thought he looked great. It looks like he's going to be the starter in there.
Yeah.
If you're struggling for a quarterback, I think he'll be good. You've got to look at the weapons in about him. Alex Pierce, another great game fantasy football wise as well. Pittman with a touchdown. There's another guy back from the dead. It looks like he seems to unlock these guys again in terms of Ehringer. I'd be picking him up. The Commanders, Taylor Heineke.
Yep.
I thought he looked great. Led that drive at the end to go and win the game.
He slotted in there well. And McLaren, is it McLaren?
Yeah, Scary Terry.
He's seems to be doing well. Listen, the Commanders, again, I've slotted them a lot on this, but they're 4-4 right now. We'll be battling out for a playoff place.
Yeah, you've got to look at that. The division that we're in just now: Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, all very solid winning records, and then you've got the Commanders now in 4-4. It's went from the worst division in the league to the best division in the league. But the late game last night, the Packers at the Bills. This one we could see the way it was going. Aaron Rodgers already struggling without the likes of Christian Watson. Most of the game went down with a nasty injury, and hope it's all right for him. Lazard already out with a shoulder injury. Romeo Doubs with a horrible drop at the start, and you know that way, like your mum or dad would, that look they'd give you if you tell them you're doing your room and you walk in, you've not done your room. That was what Aaron Rodgers was like. It was bad. But the Buffalo Bills, man,
they're just getting a bit of consistency now. They're looking strong. We didn't see this game going any differently from this. Comfortable for the Bills. They're looking strong, you've got to say. We said at the start, Super Bowl, our favourites for them. Got to be still be thinking that way, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And Stefan Diggs, it's just what you expect there. Gabe Davis, I am probably going to say something here that's going to shoot me in the foot in our fantasy league, but I'm maybe going to start to think about moving him on. If there's no deep ball threat and there's no touchdowns, he's very touchdown dependent at the moment. He's got to carry a sort of trade value there. I think if you get him in a good week, you're scoring good points. But fantasy football, you're always searching for consistency. If you can get another decent sort of wide receiver, maybe not on the same level quality-wise as Davis, but on the same level points-wise consistently, then I'd maybe go and trade. That's where I'm looking at the moment. But one more game left for this week, and it's tonight's game. We've got the Bengals at the Browns. Quick prediction?
I'm going to go Bengals win. I think they're really starting to play well. I think the Browns have been sloppy at points this season. They've showed flashes that can definitely produce a big result, but I'm going to go with the Bengals tonight.
I'm going to agree with you there. Even without Jamar Chase, I think they're going to pull through here. The Browns, it's not been a great season for them. It's not really worked out. Maybe all the off the field stuff has finally caught up with them. But yeah, Bengals, easy one for me. But got a few wee things to tie up before we get going. Thank you to everyone that's listened so far. Week 9, byemageddon. We've got 6 teams on byes. Is this something that you look to plan ahead with?
I don't do a lot of planning ahead, to be honest with you. I
can see that by your notes.
But it's one that obviously affects a lot of players in there, and I think it's just you've got to just try and make do. And my big one is CMC. Not in action this week, so that's my main man out, to be honest. But you've just got to make do with it. But again, as I touched on last week, it's sort of you're looking around the waivers. I was looking the last couple of days, and it's very, very slim pickings. You've just got to take it. I think it's down to a lot of luck, to be honest with you. But later on in the week, and then going into next week, you might pick up somebody that somebody's dropped because of a bye week. So again, it could bring up opportunities that way, but it's very hard to predict at this stage. I think everybody's sort of on the same boat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, frustrating. You said CMC. Guys with Tony Pollard must be pulling their hair out. They get that breakthrough they've been waiting on. Because you do take that risk with Pollard, knowing that he's probably going to play second fiddle every single season to Elliot, even though I do believe he is a better player than him. That you're like, yes, he gets his breakthrough, Elliot gets injured, and then boom, bye week.
I know. It's so annoying, isn't it? But
yeah, so the other teams you've got there, you've got the Browns, the Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers and the 49ers all on bye week. So a very crucial week in going into week 9. What I would be doing, right, and it's something I've discovered recently, is that like your waiver pick goes on the snake order. So if you're bottom, your first pick, so on, so on. If you don't pick that first day, then come the next round of waivers, you then go up the list because these guys get the picks before you. What I would be looking out for here is who guys are dropping, because folk are going to get pretty desperate. There's going to be folk with a good few players missing. Yeah. So it's maybe worth keeping an eye on who folk drop as opposed to who's actually on the waivers.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much the way I see that going. In other news, we've got the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. Anyone that sticks out to you? Any teams that need anyone in a specific position?
There's a couple of specific players who I can maybe see moving on. You've got Kareem Hunt. I think because CMC's already traded, I think someone like him becomes a lot more valuable and a lot of teams might take a shot and go push the boat out to try and get him. He was kind of one I thought that might make a move.
There's a lot of rumours against one of the big ones going about Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
The Saints say they would take a first round pick. The Bills seem to be hovering about. Imagine him in the same team. Yeah. Stefan Diggs, Gabe Davis, George Allen.
That would be unreal.
Oh my God. Aye. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if they're willing to give up that first round pick, but just imagine, that's dream team stuff.
If that does, just give them the Super Bowl just now.
Yeah, oh my God, that would be amazing. And for you've got Devin Singletary.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker.
That would be a heartbreaker. That'd be biting the hand that feeds him, and I used to love Kamara. I used to have him in my teams. Yeah, that'd be a tough one for me.
Yeah. And for me, excuse me, I think the Eagles were linked with him as well, actually. For me, the Rams are absolutely crying out for a running back as well. There's no run game apart from Darrell Henderson there, who's not exactly a lights out running back. Somebody like, this might sound wild. Does it sound wild that Cam Akers could go back there?
Absolutely crazy, but he will move somewhere. I don't know where at this stage, but as I said, East Kilbride Pirates might take a look at him.
Will he be moving on to your roster?
Absolutely not. He'll be nowhere near it again.
Up the road. And in terms of, I know I mentioned them a lot on here, the Giants crying out for a wide receiver.
Yep.
Anyone you've seen linked there that you fancy?
Chase Claypool potentially, I think could be one that's there. He's been linked to a few teams. I think he could be one that moves late on.
Yeah, I think a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers would be interested in draft picks, given how poor they are this season and given that they could be doing with some reinforcements and think ahead to next season.
It's so interesting in NFL. You compare that to other sports where teams at this stage of season, they start to think strategically towards next season, and they think we can get rid of a player because it helps us next year. It's one of these crazy cuts that you don't get anywhere else in the world, to be honest.
You're wearing the right jumper for that. A team that tried to bring in a coach to lose games.
Absolutely. You play the game, it's sort of like damage limitation. It's strange to think you're always taught keep doing your all to the end, never give up your season, but a lot of these teams are more strategic than that now, and they think, well, this season's a write-off, we're realistically not going to do much. Let's throw it away so that it can be better next year.
Nah, the other name that seems to be floating about is Jerry Jeudy. I'd love him to come to the Giants. Can't see it, but that's what I'd go with. But no, Shug, it's been a fantastic show. Phoebe, top class guest, wasn't she?
Oh, outstanding.
I know, and we'll definitely get along to watch her. But before we go, like the big news off the field just now, Tom Brady became the most sacked player in NFL history with 555 sacks. Since the defeat to the Ravens, that number's rised 556 since Giselle gave him the sack. So what about that? Is it put him off? Is it having a bearing on him?
I think we spoke about it from the start of the season. Because of his experience, because of his success, we kind of said, you know what, lay off him, he'll be good this season. But it's obviously a lot of personal stuff's been impacting him. The start of it being most stacked, we spoke about it last week. I don't really read too much in it, but just all seems to be falling apart from this season, doesn't it? And it is a shame because, listen, no matter how he retires, he'll always leave an unbelievable legacy. Yeah. But possibly it starts to make you think, should he have left at the top and should he have just walked away? But he could still make a bounce back, but he's struggling just now, isn't he? I
agree. Go out on top. Just when he won that Super Bowl with the Bucks, I thought that's the time to do it. Yeah. And then he retired in the summer, and I really enjoyed all the media around it and stuff, and I just felt like the time was right for him to go out at that point, and then he came back, and that didn't really seem right to me. I knew there was something boiling in the background, and now it's all come out that they've went their separate ways, but we'll not dwell on it too long. Quick question, have you slid into Giselle's DMs yet?
Absolutely not. Too much respect for Tam B.
nice, but Shug, thank you as ever.
Oh, thank
Producer
you.
David, thank you as ever. You have outstanding
man of the match tonight.
Man of the match. But no, like we always say, please like, please share, and please subscribe. It means a lot. Our numbers are getting better, but we're getting a wee bit better. We give it all here.
I can't believe you didn't use a Halloween pun tonight.
Go for it.
Boo. Or bust.
On that note, thank you.